We can never forget that velocity is the number one metric for cyclists. We have so many things out there going in terms of metrics that we can track, that we can race by. But yeah, velocity is the number one metric to get that PR, to win that event, to stand on that top podium. And so that is one of the biggest problems, and one of the things that I talk about the most is pacing, pacing, pacing. And right now, my clients, athletes that I work with, are coming out of a great 4 month base. Plus, some of them are even coming out of their 2 month build. So they have 6 months of fitness in those legs. There are some events are already being canceled, but we got to go out there and have fun. We got to go out there and use Strava segments to get PRs, to learn how to pace. And so this is one of the reasons that my favorite PRs, my favorite Strava segments are long climbs, an hour climb or so, or a 50-mile Strava segment. Those are actually my favorite. The 50 to 60-mile Strava segments, those are my favorite because it all becomes down to what is your FTP, what is your fueling philosophy, and where can you get speed on that course. We have 4 big gravel climbs in our area, and so this year I'm going after my personal PRs, which were set back in 2020. I'm going after all of my PRs this year. So of the 4 climbs, I've done 3. I've gotten 3 PRs, and this last one that I did, the one we're going to talk about today, I took 5 minutes off my time of an 11.5 mile gravel climb. So today, once again, and this is a major theme in everything that I do, this is the majority of my videos are on pacing. It's something that really excites me. I love the mental thinking about it, but I love the results. If you pace a Strava segment correctly, especially a 50 miler, especially a 60 miler, you will take dramatic time off of your previous PR. So let's jump in here and talk about this race or this PR that I did this past Friday. Now, this is mostly a gravel climb. As you can see, it's really gnarly. We got some great switchbacks, and it is pretty much an 11 almost stop. So the big thing with this particular climb is where to get speed on this course. So this is actually paved, okay? Then we go up here. Then we have this little flat section, which is actually a descent, and then we have another climb, and then this is actually 1 mile, and it's kind of a gnarly descent where there's some turns. It's really hard to get speed, and then we have this long. It's not a straightaway, as you can see, but it is a great place to get speed on the course. So let's look at physics of pacing first, okay? So once again, so here you are as a cyclist, and you have this thing called power that's pushing you forward, and you have these 1, 2, 3 things acting against you. You have gravity pushing you down. You have drag. You're going into the wind. Something like that is pushing against you, and then you're rolling resistance. And with these gravel climbs and even road, always remember, smoother is faster. And so this last point is really super hard with a lot of athletes, and even myself that I work with, that come from the road to gravel. It's really hard to dial in those tire pressures, right? So I always want to put too much tire pressure in my tires, right? So for the gravel around here, sort of an ideal tire pressure is around 30 to 32, and sometimes you do feel that those rims going against the gravel or something, you're hitting the road, you're feeling the rims. But I always, the roadie in me always wants to put like 35, 40 PSI in those things. And that's just not the case. You have to go, with those lower PSIs, because smoother is faster on these things. Now, one of the key things about is the physics of pacing. And remember, we're trying to get speed speed on a course. And a course, especially this particular gravel climb that I'm doing, it's going up, it's going down. There's a paved section. So where am I going to drop my watt bombs? Okay, so you have the human physiology in that if you go out too hard on any effort, you're going to die 1,000 deaths to cross that finish line. So basically, you build up too much waste product in your system if you go out too hard, and then you have to carry that fatigue and that waste product with you for the rest of the ride. So it's best to what we call negative splits in the industry, where you go out slower and slowly raise your watts throughout an effort and saving your big watts for the very end, right? It doesn't matter if you accumulate that waste product at the very end, because guess what? You're done. You can get off the bike. You can relax in a field. So one of the basic principles so not only do you have the human physiology, but, when getting speed on a course, you also have the physics of pacing itself. And so when you're going up a climb, basically it's very counterintuitive, but twice as fast, 2 times the power. So if you want to go twice as fast on a climb, all you need is twice the power. Now, if you're going on a flat or going down a descent to go twice as fast, you need 8 times the power. And so this is very counterintuitive, because when you're going fast, so say if you're on a course and you're going 6 miles an hour forever, and then you get to a section where you can do 30, you really want to throw down watts. You really want to just have fun and just try to catch up and get as fast as you can go. But that's actually what you don't want to do. You want to get watts, right? When it's most power efficient. And so when is it most power efficient? It's when you're going slower. So, when I go out to do these things, I have a ceiling and I have a floor. When I am going up a climb, I'm going to hit my ceiling watts. When I'm going flat or going down, I'm going to hit my floor watts, right? And so what does this look like? So basically, kind of a principle is climbs over 3%, consider adding 10%. To your power. Descents over 3%, consider reducing 10%. So then what would this look like? So say here is your Strava segment right here. Right? And so here is the climb. And so you're going to want to have your most watts right here. Then when you go down, and this is where a lot of people will make a mistake, is that they will then try to do this section right here at 300 watts. But that is not the most efficient place to get speed. You're basically wasting matches by trying to get speed right here. So right here, for this particular segment, I have a ceiling of 220 and a floor of 180. So right here, boom, we're at our ceiling, we're at our floor. We're digging here, we're letting our watts fall through here. If you want to do a tax analogy, it's April. So right here, we're paying taxes. Right here, we're getting free speed. We're getting our refund. Right here, we're paying taxes. Right here, we're getting our refund. And right here, BTF, bring the fire. So we dig here, relax here, dig here, relax here. Then on this bump right here, on this last roller, I would just drop a massive watt bomb of like 1,000 watts to get up to speed really quick. And then boom, bring the fire. So basically when it comes to that's the physics of pacing. But when we want to actually go for a PR on a segment, this is where I love to geek out and get really super nerdy, right? There's kind of 4 things that I do. I love to explore my history. Okay, what did I do in the past? Where did I get watts? What did my HR look like when I got watts? How did my heart rate respond? Things like this. I want to look at my previous efforts to get a history of what I did before in the past. I want to examine my current best. So this is something that I always do, right? Your fitness changes roughly every 90 days. So I always look at my last 90 days to see what are my personal best for that time. And so for this particular effort, it's 11 and a half miles. My previous best time was 1 hour and 9 minutes. And so roughly in an hour, I'm like, what is my best time in the last 90 days for an hour. And I actually had data. So that's at the hour mark. You might not have much data for that, going hard, going at your FTP, going at your sweet spot. But I actually had the data, which was really good. Then we want to form a strategy. Where are we going to dig? Where are we going to pay the taxes? Where are we going to collect the refund? It's all about forming that strategy to make sure that we get dropping the bombs and digging in the right places. And then lastly, I use my lap button to pace. And now for me, there's many strategies for an hour-long thing. You could do a strategy where you're going to say, like, you're just going to hit the lap button on your sections. I tend not to do that. I tend not to hit my lap button a lot. I tend to hit my lap button once and then just look at my ceilings, look at my floors throughout the ride. All right, so here's the climb itself, all right? So this is the most fascinating part of this climb because this is actually paved, right? So remember our physics, smoother is faster. Well, this is the smoothest section on the course. So what should you do? Should you just, if your ceiling is 280 and your floor is 260, which mine was, should I just do 280 right here and then bring it down? This was the big question mark. So I settled on 270 for right here. And then this is all gravel. I had an idea around 260 to see how I feel. Then we have these little sections right here. So that's free watts right there. Dig right there. Free watts, really dig right there. And this section is about a mile. So this is free watts. Now here's where I made my mistake in the past, where I would do this many years ago. I would still try to stay on the watts as much as possible going through this section right here. And my theory this time was that, I've always done this section too hard. So it's counterintuitive because this on this whole course is where you're going fastest, but this is where your free speed is. And so if you try to drop bombs on this, you are just wasting watts to get too little speed. Because remember, to get speed on here, to double your velocity, you need to multiply your power times 8. But right here, if I want to double my speed, all I got to do is times 2 right here, times 2. Right. So this was an hour. And so then my goal was to do my ceiling for this last and then bring the fire watts right here. So how did I do? Well, on this first section, I did 270. And then for this long section right here, I did 265. On this section right here, I was really super happy with myself because I want to stay on the watts so bad, but I really just let my heart rate drop and recover. I just relaxed, and then I brought it home with a total of 272 watts for this last section. So I was about 8 watts off of my goal. And then I brought the fire the last 3 minutes at 300 watts. Now, again, this whole concept of this is based on 2 things: human physiology, the concept of negative splits, and then 2, the physics of pacing. And so there's 2 things that we're working with in this, this particular model of pacing. And then lastly, gel at the beginning. Gel right there, gel right there. I don't like to ever drink or do gels on any kind of descent because this is when you're going fast and this is when things can go really crazy. So I always eat and drink on some kind of climb. And then I had another 45 minutes to an hour to get home. So I took a gel right after that, right after the effort. And so how did I do? Right there, I got 12th on this climb. There's 227 people. And, these are some big names. I think most of us will recognize Jeremiah Bishop, Jill Patterson, a friend of mine. She is just a fantastic talent. But yeah, so I did it in 1:03:44, which took 5 minutes off my previous best time from 2020. And I'm not seeing an end in sight because I did not have the best base period this round. And so when I come back strong, I still have about 2 months to go of building in my base period. And so my FTP is still climbing. And so I'm going to try this again one more time this spring and see if I can get that under an hour. But remember, when it comes to pacing, we're really dealing with two big picture items: where to get speed on the course in terms of physics, pacing, gravity, rolling resistance, all that great stuff. And then human physiology, negative splits, in that you just can't go out too hard on these efforts or you're going to die 1,000 deaths. All right, everybody, go out there, have fun. These for me are really super fun. And if you ever want to talk about pacing or some kind of strategy to hit your PR or to nail event, please reach out. Lee at Sanstead.com. Lee at Sanstead.com.